Let's talk to Connor Tomlinson, the political commentator with Young Voices UK. Connor, it's great to have you on the show again.
Hello again, Peter.
Hiya, Connor. Because we're I'm going to talk in just a second about the digital dollar, and we talked about cryptocurrencies and the World Economic Forum a bit last week, and thank you for your message this week to say we should discuss this, and you were absolutely right. And I just you sent a tweet earlier in regard to women's equality and women International Women's Day. Just articulate your thoughts on that just for a second, and then we'll get to this cryptocurrency.
Well, it was very frustrating to hear Ms. Noakes repeat the wage gap myth, because what that basically is, it was debunked years ago, mainly by feminist economist Christina Hoff Sommers. She looks at the wage gap, and it was essentially all men's earnings in one column, all women's earnings in other column, without accounting for different worked hours, different professions, the fact that more women work more part-time jobs because either they have to look after a family or they favour things like lifestyle and flexibility. And they just said, one bar graph isn't the same as the other bar graph. Must be patriarchal oppression. That's possibly the dumbest analysis of anything economic, and any actual economist will laugh that wage gap myth out of court. So the idea that a Conservative MP is essentially appointing herself in the position of, we're going to control people's free choices until we get complete gender parity is laughable. Freedom and equal outcomes, they're not commensurate, and your previous caller was exactly correct on that.
Okay, well, I'd love to get you and Caroline Noakes in a debate about that. Perhaps we'll do that in the future. Let's talk about the US digital dollar, because President Biden has issued an executive order to explore a cryptocurrency like digital dollar. Why should we be worried, Connor?
Well, some of the people that have looked at this central bank digital currency have said, hey, what's the difference between this and regular money? Because in 1971, President Nixon sold off all the gold reserves. We had the same thing with Gordon Brown just before Labour left office and David Cameron took over. And essentially, our currencies aren't really backed up by anything. So I suppose they can just inflate them as they like, as we saw with the 100 billion plus printed over the course of the pandemic by the Bank of England.
Quantitative easing, just printing money, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, there was 100 billion printed monthly by the American Federal Reserve. So that's why prices from everything from gas to food are so high, as well as the supply chain problems currently from the Ukraine crisis. The main issue we should be worried about this, though, is one, if all cash is removed from the hands of the public, well, that means there's nothing outside of taxation. And two, the existing digital infrastructure for cash, there's no blockchain in it. And blockchain is essentially from the time that a digital currency is created to the time that it ends up in your hands, there's a ghost trace of every transaction that it's been through. And if the government can start seeing that, well, they're going to say, hey, we can monitor crypto activity. No criminal can ever use cryptocurrencies or cash to do things again. The issue is, if they can trace exactly who has it at all times, and they tie that to a digital identification system, which lots of bills are being brought in, you say the wrong thing on social media, and as we spoke about last week, your ability to buy goods and services is turned off.
Aren't you just being a bit paranoid, Connor?
Definitely not, because the online safety bill in the UK is currently bringing in a digital passport to verify your identity and remove online anonymity. And then the EU are looking, and we're actually spearheading the adoption of the digital currency in the G7, by the way, with Chancellor Rishi Sunak. I guarantee there's going to be something in the budget announcement on the 23rd about this. And the EU is bringing in a digital euro within the next 4 years. And they've actually tied it to the European digital identity, announced the other day by Ursula von der Leyen, who said in her speech, this will be used from everything from using your social media to renting a bicycle. So they've already confirmed that your social media ID will be tied to the currency.
Okay, Connor, thank you very much indeed for your insight on that, and for the update on that really interesting development there.